to have a tough conversation, or at least start a tough conversation, and I want to talk about white supremacy within modern witchcraft and modern paganism. We have seen an uptick in a lot of discussion and fights and all sorts of stuff around this. But what comes with these discussions always is the whole overwhelming, they're not pagan, we don't claim them. And the problem is, paganism has this bad habit and history of sweeping things under the rug and hiding things away because we don't want to be associated with bad stuff. And the problem is that that doesn't fix the problem. We need to acknowledge that this exists and we need to figure out how to root it out. Now, every single person is going to be at a different place in their journey. Every single person is going to do work in a different way. I am still learning. I have been working really hard on dismantling my own biases and working on figuring out how to have these hard conversations with people in my life because unfortunately I am aware of how I was raised. I am aware of what my family and the people in my life when I was younger believe, and I have to have those hard conversations with them. And it's a little bit scary, and you always worry you're going to say the wrong thing. And now I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I can shift this focus to other areas of my life. And paganism and my spirituality is one of them. And it's hard to have these conversations on TikTok because you only have 60 seconds and you've got to edit things and try and cram it in, and it's difficult. But we do need to start speaking out. We do need to be having these conversations and thinking critically to realize, one, it's a problem. Two, we have to figure out how to fix it. I do not know how we're going to fix it. I don't know the answers to that. But I know that the conversations absolutely have to happen. And we we have always been sort of a more welcoming space for other groups to sort of feel safer under the pagan umbrella as a welcoming group, and that has sometimes backfired in some really terrible ways on the wrong kinds of people coming into our communities. And just like we have always had to have the conversations on the predators in our community, we do have to have a conversation on the racists and white supremacists within our communities. We do need to take hard looks at our practices. I mean, the fact that it is 2021 and we still have to have the arguments over whether or not you can do a closed practice or the arguments over white sage show that there is still a lot of the systematic racism within paganism. And I know I am a child of the 80s, so I grew up with the whole New Age movement and everything was spiritual and groovy and like everything was up for grabs without any idea where it came from. And that has persisted. And a lot of people like to blame Wicca because, yes, Wicca has a lot of cultural appropriation in it. But it is not just a Wicca problem, it is an everybody problem. It is every aspect of modern witchcraft and modern paganism has a problem. We we've really come to love the eclectic idea that, oh, everything is spiritual and groovy for us to touch and take and everything. But then people get really mad when you're like, well, that part of it you can't have because that is a closed practice, or that part of it is cultural appropriation. You need to fix that. And yes, we can say because Wicca was the first, that's where a lot of the problems came from. But the problems continued even for those who were not Wiccan and or who left Wicca behind. And I, it really does come down to our bias and our decision that, oh, we're entitled to everything because we're spiritual beings, and that is not true. I don't, I don't know how to stop it. I can be honest with that. All I know is that I have been taking deep, hard looks at my own path, and I have been doing a lot of work on looking at every single aspect and saying, okay, where does this come from? Can I still use this? Do I need to learn more about this? And so on. And I know there are always the the mix-ups over cultural appreciation versus cultural appropriation, and the open practices from some places where they were open to anybody worshiping. But that doesn't mean that we can just take without actually learning and respecting and understanding the roots of where it comes from, the culture it comes from, and how it is appropriately supposed to be used and practiced. The And I know a lot of people get tired of hearing that they have to do research, but it is absolutely an important part of our path. Like learning and growing, yes, experience and getting out there. And I know that for a long time there were a lot of people who were too booky and were not actually getting their hands dirty and doing the crap in the path. But they kind of have to go hand in hand. You need to be like, okay, that's really cool. I need to learn more about it. You can't just see like a 10-second clip on TikTok and be like, oh, I'm going to do that now without understanding the context and everything that goes on behind it. And we need to start owning up to the problems within our communities and figuring out how to solve those problems. And right now, the big problem is that, yes, we are at a point in society where we are really looking at white supremacy and really learning about the roots of it and seeing how deep it is within our entire culture. And that that can be difficult and hard, but it is important. There are a lot of great books out there. Um, I always recommend the workbook Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad, and I will link it below. It's really got to start internally so that you can start working externally, and that's the best thing I can think of, is that I am doing my own work and then fixing my own path so that when I am educating others, I am making sure that I am passing on the correct information. And then also, we have to own up and try and fix the problems in the community. And again, I don't know what the answers are. So, if you have ideas, I'm happy to hear them and talk about them. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work we all have to do, and it is important work. So critically looking at everything you do is important. And maybe we need to stop so much with the bashing of everybody else's path and focus a little bit on our own and then make the corrections we need to make, which will hopefully help us start to overall shift and correct everything. Just my 7 minutes of thoughts there.